fame. If you win it, comes and goes in a minute. Where's the real stuff in life to cling to? Long.
Hello, everyone. This is Larry Potesta with the Boomer Pod. And we have a guest today that was a stunt coordinator and a stunt person for many years, Miss Leslie Hoffman. Hello, Leslie. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, Larry. It's great to be here.
Why don't you tell us how it all started, Leslie?
Well, I think I knew I was going to be an entertainer since the age of 3 or 4 years old. I mean, when teachers would have you write, what are you going to be when you grow up? I always said, I always said that I was going to be an actress. I didn't realize that there was a profession called stunt. So like I say, always an entertainer. My mother put me in ballet lessons because I was pigeon-toed, and someone told her that would help turn my feet out. But the teacher discovered that I was gymnastically inclined, and I have a bug flying around. I was gymnastically inclined, and she started giving me private lessons, and I would open up the recitals. I would do my own solo dance at these recitals, and also I was in a summer theater play, Carousel. I don't know how old I was. I mean, I was below the age of 10. What happened was I had been to a couple of acting schools, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and the Herbert Berkoff Studios, both located in New York City. But in between those two schools, my older brother had gone out to California, to Caltech, and we went out as a family to visit him, and we went to Universal Studios. And at Universal Studios, there was the Western Stunt Show. And all of a sudden, these guys come out and they're talking, but they're throwing punches and they're jumping and doing high falls and fights. And it was at that point I realized that I wanted to be a stunt woman. So after I finished Herbert Berkoff Studios, I came out to California to pursue the profession of stunt woman. Other than my brother, who, like you say, was at Caltech, I have no relatives that were in the industry. So, there was no one that I could take a step up from or go to. I don't know how much more you want me to continue without asking questions, but I'll continue. I found a gym in Santa Monica where would-be stunt people would go and practice stunts. We actually would teach each other fights and falls and high falls and fencing. I learned how to fence at the American Academy, so I actually was teaching some of the people how to fence. And then the way you get a job is you go out and you find where they're filming a movie, and you approach the stunt coordinator and you introduce yourselves. And at that time, they were filming a movie called 2 Minute Warning. And the stunt coordinator said, if you could get a letter from the producer, I'll hire you as a stunt person. Now, there's a rule about joining the Screen Actors Guild back then. In order to do a union job, you have to belong to a union or the union in order to okay, need to start again. In order to join the union, you have to have a union job. In order to have a union job, you have to be a member of the union. So it's a vicious circle. And I was very naive. Like I say, I was told if the producer would write you a letter. So I called up the office and got the secretary on the phone and explained to her that the stunt coordinator would hire me if the producer would write a letter. And she said, fine, what's your name? You know, what's your address? What's your social security number? I mean, I was shocked and anyways, I got into the union. Years later, I actually met this other person, this other woman, who said, you got into the union on my coattails. Unbeknownst to me, this stunt woman, or this woman who had connections with Universal Studios, it was set up that she was going to go into the office and get the letter from the producer. So I think the secretary mixed me up with her. You know, she was expecting a woman to call and ask for a letter, but she didn't know the name. So when I called, she just assumed I was the person that was going to get the letter. I mean, we both got in the union. You know, we both had a career as stunt women, but it is. I personally, I find it very funny. I mean, like you say, you just don't call up a producer and say, write me a letter or get me into the union.
Now, some of the baby boomers' favorites you were involved in. Let me name a few. How about the Love Boat? Who did you double for in that series?
I doubled Tova Feldschun. She was in an episode with John Ritter, and she falls off the Love Boat. Um, you're probably going to ask, like, what's one of the most dangerous stunts? Actually, this was a dangerous stunt. Falling off the Love Boat, I look over the edge and I go, how high are we? And the stunt coordinator says, oh, I don't know, about 40 feet. Anyways, I did the jump, and the following day or something, they measured it. It was 78 feet to water. And there was a stuntman that jumped behind me who was doubling John Ritter. You know, so if he had landed on top of me, I mean, we both would have been killed. But as you can see, that didn't happen. I mean, the danger about water is landing wrong on water is like landing on cement. I mean, water will kill you.
And how about Fantasy Island? Now, there
I
were many named stars in that show. Which one stood out to you?
Well, I only did a couple of episodes, so really, one of the episodes had Pamela Franklin and Ray Milland, and at that time he was very old gentleman. But to know that you were working with Ray Milland was amazing. Then another episode, I worked with Bernie Coppell, which actually was the doctor on Love Boat. And one of the funniest things I remember, I was supposed to rescue him out of a pond he had fallen into. And he goes, be careful of my hair. It turns out that he has a toupee. He didn't want me to rip his toupee off. Anyways, my favorite actor from Fantasy Island is Ricardo Montalban. I mean, he was a gentleman. Here's someone again, like Ray Milland. I mean, he had a long history of movies he was in. He was a movie star before he was on television, but he treated cast and crew. He was a normal person. I mean, he wasn't stuck up or anything. He would say hello to me anytime I was on the set. It was kind of funny. Later, I did the movie Naked Gun, and Ricardo was in that, and I walk onto the set, and Ricardo comes up to me and he goes, "Hi, Leslie." This man remembered my name after a couple of years later. I mean, I just can't say enough about Ricardo.
And then there was 1941. How was it to work with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd?
Actually, I didn't work with them per se. There were multiple stories going on in the movie 1941, and really John Belushi's story was him flying the airplane. I sort of was in the episode that Dan Aykroyd was in, but like you say, I really didn't get to meet them personally. It was kind of strange. After the movie was filmed, I was flying back to New York, actually Saranac Lake, New York, which is 300 miles north of New York City. And on the airplane, here's Dan Aykroyd and Wendy Jo Sperber, the actress I doubled, and they were flying back to New York for a wrap party. And Wendy obviously recognized me, and I got invited to this New York City wrap party for 1941. It was amazing. I mean, I've been to wrap parties in Los Angeles, but I don't know if this was held at the Astoria or, I mean, some real fancy hotel where they just rented the whole floor for the party.
And then one of my favorites, MASH, Loretta Swit and Alan Alda. How was it to work with those folks?
Again, I really didn't meet them. You get on a set, and also there are scenes in television shows and movies, and your scene may not include the actors that you're talking about. But the interesting thing about MASH is it was lunchtime, and like you say, I'm not part of the regular crew of MASH, so I get my lunch tray and I sit at a picnic table by myself, away from other people, and I hear this voice say to me, "Can I have lunch with you?" And I say yes, and I turn around and it's Harry Morgan. It's Colonel Potter. So actually meeting an actor involved with MASH was Harry Potter, and we had a wonderful lunch. I mean, I don't remember even what we were talking about, but he again, another very friendly actor.
Now, you worked regularly on Star Trek, did you not?
I worked on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and I worked on Star Trek Voyager. Yes, and I worked on several episodes. I mean, I wasn't there every day, but I was there a lot of the times. Or I'd be on the set visiting other stunt people. So then I'm a Trekkie. I mean, we go back to uh well, when the original Star Trek came out, I actually got on a bus and went down to New York City for the second convention that was held down there. I mean, that's how much I love Star Trek. So um the stunt coordinator was one of the people from Paul Stater's gym, the stunt gym that I was talking about. And he was hiring people that he knew from the gym because he knew what we were capable of doing. So, anyways, I mean, and I've worked at Paramount Studios before, so it isn't like it was the first time walking onto the studio, but walking onto the studio knowing that you're walking towards the Star Trek set was it was like a feeling that I was doing something for the first time again. I mean, the thrill of the first time that I worked on Deep Space Nine.
And then there was Doris Roberts and Remington Steele. How was
Yes.
that experience?
Now I did Doris Roberts. Now I did get to know Doris Roberts. I did get to know Pierce Brosnan. Stephanie, not so much. Um, Again, it was a lot of fun. It because I'm not your skinny actress. Heavier actresses tend to do the funny stunts. And Doris Roberts, being a matron, when they wrote in the script for her to do a stunt, it was a funny thing. It was like she opened up a door and this like wall of water comes out, and what they actually built this set over a swimming pool. So when the wall of water hit me, um, I was pushed into the pool. But boy, it seems like with Doris, it's water. There's another episode um, where she gets shot at and falls off the end of a pier into the water. But like you say, is that these were funny stunts. I mean, and I don't remember the exact line, but uh something like drama is easy, comedy is hard, because the way you have to do comedy is straight. You have to, you can't be silly while doing a stunt. It's funnier if you're well, I was going to say dramatic.
Now I have a list of shows that you worked on. Let me mention them and you can tell me your memories about them. Chips, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream 2, Airplane, and The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad. What are your greatest experiences? Horror, comedy, or drama?
Well, as I said, I tend to like comedy stunts. Chips wasn't much of a stunt other than sitting on the back of a motorcycle, and I'm supposed to be this tough guy's girlfriend while Eric Estrada has an orangutan on the back of his bike. And we come to a stoplight, and my guy looks over at the orangutan, and then he takes a look at me, and he's trying to decide who's prettier, the the orangutan or me. So again, it's a funny stunt. Drama, I have to go back to actually Star Trek Voyager, where I was the Alana Torres, Roxanne Dawson's stunt double. And there's a very interesting rule is in Star Trek I mean, it's changed now with the newer Star Treks, but back when I was doing stunts, human women could not fight. They could not throw a punch at a guy. They could hit them with a stick, a pipe, the butt of a gun, but they could not throw a punch. B'Elanna Torres, being half Klingon, half human, allowed her to fight. So there's two different episodes, Day of Honor and Blood Fever, where I actually have a one-on-one fight with well, the stuntman, but who's doubling the character in that episode.
What do you consider your greatest achievements, Leslie?
Well, in my career, actually, it wasn't stunts, but the greatest achievement was I was the first stunt woman elected to the Screen Actors Guild Board of Directors in the early 80s when Ed Asner was president. And I became co-chair of the National Stunt and Safety Committee. And then the following year, I became the chair of the National Stunt and Safety Committee. I also was sent up to Sacramento due to the Twilight Zone incident when the helicopter killed Vic Morrow and the two children. It was a great achievement. And then I actually was the one that with the AFTRA union, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, they have a local board and a national board, and I was the first stunt person to be on both boards representing the stunt industry. So I mean, to have, like you say, to have a whole arm of the union created because I was on the board is really something. Then when I was no longer on the SAG board of directors, and also Patty Duke was president after Ed Asner, I was given a certificate of appreciation for my work that I did, and it's signed by Patty Duke. And just recently, well, I live in my hometown, Saranac Lake. In the last couple of years, a group got together, and Saranac Lake has a Walk of Fame. And they actually gave me a plaque. It's not a star. It's not in the sidewalk. It's on the building. In this case, it's the building is Hotel Saranac. But anyone who comes to Saranac Lake, if you go to Hotel Saranac, you'll see this plaque, like I say, with my name, Leslie Hoffman. And I forget if it says labor leader and movie stunt woman. So I mean, those are my greatest achievements that I feel that I have or have done.
And how about challenges? in your career?
Well, I'm not quite sure when you say challenges, so I'll say it's it's a male run industry. It's very hard for a woman to have a career in this industry. I mean, when there's a barroom brawl, when there's big fight, it's always stuntmen. It's not stunt women. Uh, Producers, directors, they tend to want a stunt man to be the stunt coordinator. It used to be that the stunt coordinator stunt doubled the lead of a television show, but when Bionic Woman or Wonder Woman came along, all of a sudden that rule didn't apply anymore. It was still a stuntman that ran the show. They didn't hire a woman to be the stunt coordinator. So I got to admit that on Star Trek, Dennis Matalone, who I said I met at the stunt gym, I was one of his assistant stunt coordinators, um, because the shows overlapped each other. So he might be needed on Deep Space Nine, he might be needed on Voyager, he might be needed at a production meeting. They might be doing retakes of a previous episode, and he just couldn't be in all these places at the same time. So he had his group of stunt people, uh, being, like I say, his uh, assistant coordinator. And I guess this is again one of the greatest moments, is that I was Dennis's only stunt woman coordinator or assistant coordinator.
And can you tell us about your family, Leslie?
Well, again, I'm from a town of 5,000 people. So, um, really, my father comes from a long line of pharmacists, and that's why he actually was brought up in New York City, but he wanted to raise his family in a small town, and there was a pharmacy for sale in Saranac Lake. Uh, and he came up by himself and looked at the pharmacy, and he loved Saranac Lake, and he brought my mother, his wife, up here, and there are three of us. He raised boy, girl, boy. Um, so, like I say, my father was a pharmacist. My mother was a housekeeper, but she would come to the drugstore and do little odd jobs. Um, Now, as for my brothers, my older brother was born a genius. I mean, he he graduated a year ahead of the class that he was supposed to graduate. He finished 12th grade math in 6th grade. Um, he went from MIT to Caltech to Rockefeller University. Um, I'm just trying to think. And then he has his own lab in South Carolina, the Medical Center of South Carolina. And actually, he has a lab underneath his name. Then my younger brother, also extremely smart, but I'll say book learned as opposed to being born genius. But he also went to MIT, and let's see, like I say, I get it mixed up. Uh, Went to MIT. I think he went to Tufts, and he too is a professor at Boston College and also runs a lab that's underneath him. I mean, the lab is named after him. One of them is a macrobiologist and one of them is a microbiologist, and I always get mixed up which one is which. And that's it. There were really, we were a family of 5 in Saranac Lake, and the closest relative was 300 miles away from us.
What have I missed, Leslie, that you could like to comment on or pitch?
I don't know. One thing that I really enjoy and haven't done in a while is I used to do sci-fi conventions or Star Trek conventions, and also there are horror conventions, and I would love to be invited as a guest to do guest signing and do they usually have seminars and questions and answers, because I love having the fans talk to me. Actually, one thing I haven't talked about is Nightmare on Elm Street, is that Wes Craven was the director, and this was the original Nightmare on Elm Street. And there are 3 lines in the scene. Is that first, the character Nancy comes running out of a classroom and she bumps into me. I'm the hall guard, and knocks me down, and I go, "Where's your pass?" And she goes, "Screw your pass." And then I turn into Freddy Krueger, except that it's Robert Englund's voice coming out of my mouth, and I had to say, "Hey Nancy, no running in the hallway," and then do a sinister laugh. I was told that my voice was not going to make it onto the screen. That it was known that Robert Englund was going to dub in the last line, but it's quite amazing, because anyone that I tell, or anyone that sees me and recognizes me, or anyone that I tell that I was in Nightmare on Elm Street in the scene I was in, will say one of those 3 lines to me. I mean, it's that known of a scene.
Well, it's all very interesting, Leslie. Thank you for being with us today.
Oh,
We
thank you.
return sometime with updates.
Oh, definitely will.
I'll let you know. Be
Okay.
safe. Be well. Goodbye.
Thank you. You too, Larry. Bye.
And you will be happy too.